Salute, salute. So it looked like Trump has been granted permission to bring the National Guard to Portland, guys. Make sure you double tapping that screen. Most definitely get those likes up, man. You know what I'm saying? This is Everything News. We live in the building, man. We most definitely keeping our eyes on everything. We also have some more information on this government shutdown. You know, it's looking like it may not be opening anytime soon. But first and foremost, man, they done gave Trump permission to bring the National Guard to Portland, guys.
The president's attempt to deploy National Guard troops to Portland, Oregon. CNN law enforcement correspondent Whitney Wild is with us now. Whitney, what more do we know about this?
Well, there is a major victory for the Trump administration. They had sought to appeal this temporary restraining order that limited the National Guard's ability to be deployed in Portland. Originally, a district court judge had, as I said, put a restraining order on that, attempted to extend it. The Trump administration appealed, and for now, they are celebrating a major victory because this appeals court, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the three-judge panel who oversaw this case, has put a stay on that district court judge's order, which means that the Trump administration can deploy the National Guard troops to Portland to protect that ICE facility. This is an important win, again, for the Trump administration, but it is also significant when you look at the totality of how the judiciary around the country may look at similar cases. The Ninth Circuit is widely considered a more liberal circuit. The courts on the West Coast are largely considered more liberal courts. And so for the Ninth Circuit to give the Trump administration this win, that will put quite a bit of wind in their sails, Pamela, because they are facing other similar lawsuits in other districts throughout the country. One of the points that was made in the majority opinion here, it appears to suggest that there's a lack of assistance or maybe not enough assistance from the Portland Police Department. And as they are looking at the totality of the Trump administration's claims, the totality of a potential risk here, it appears that they do think that the Trump administration will likely win on appeal. And the reason I bring up the Portland assistance is because here in Chicago, the help from local law enforcement was one of the reasons that a judge issued a temporary restraining order on the National Guard being deployed in Chicago. And the point here, Pamela, is that as the judiciary looks at all of the factors here, what is the real risk to an ICE facility? What is the real responsibility for law enforcement in this area to protect them? They are considering the assistance they're getting from local law enforcement in deciding whether or not the National Guard is warranted here. And so, again, this is a major victory for the Trump administration. Our team is combing through this order now, as well as the dissent, to try to get, bring you the most detail about the reasoning here. This is a 57-page order, and the majority, the dissent was another 36 pages. So we're still combing through all of that. But Pamela, in the short term, this means that the Trump administration can deploy the National Guard to that ICE facility in Portland. Back to you.
All right, Whitney Wild, bringing us the latest on that. Thank you so much. And that ruling in Oregon,
Trump gets to bring the National Guard to Portland, guys.
Place across the country this past weekend. And one of the issues for some of the protesters was this idea of sending the National Guard into cities. And we've heard President Trump dismiss them just today, calling them, quote, small. But according to the organizers, 7 million people took to the streets Saturday to protest and what organizers describe as President Trump's, quote, authoritarian agenda. There were more than 2,000 rallies held across the country. Speaker Johnson characterized these protests in a similar way and tying them to the ongoing government shutdown.
Now that Democrats have had their protests and publicity stunts, I just pray that they come to their senses and end this shutdown and reopen the government this week. Republicans are waiting. The American people are waiting. We are ready to act.
All right, our panel is back here. We're also joined by retired Major General Randy Manner.
Continue to double tap those the screen, guys. Get the likes up.
Trump giving permission to send troops. This latest development that we just heard from
Portland, guys,
allowing the National Guard to go to that ICE facility in Portland, Oregon.
He got approval from the Supreme Court, guys.
I think it's very unfortunate anytime we have American troops in American cities for made-up reasons. I think it's something where if the administration is limiting those troops to only ICE facilities, that is still a small and major victory that the National Guardsmen cannot go anywhere that they want. So reluctantly, of course, the court has spoken, and therefore the National Guard will follow the legal orders of the administration.
It's interesting, just again, this crossover of the executive branch and the judicial branch on these really big, high stakes decisions that are unprecedented, right?
Really unprecedented. And what this came down to is this question of whether the federal government is unable to execute the laws of the United States without the intervention of the National Guard. Now, the argument that the lower court had made was that, well, of course, these are protests happening. They might impede, they might slow down the work of the government, but the government's deporting more people than ever before. They're doing just a fine job of carrying out their orders without the National Guard. So the appeals court here seemed to say, and we haven't looked fully through it, it just came a second ago, but the appeals court seemed to say, well, no, this is getting in the way of the government's ability to do its job. That language, unable to execute its functions, is going to come up again, whether it's at the Supreme Court or whether it's with an appeal to the full Ninth Circuit, all 11 judges, which I think the parties will almost certainly do. I think there's an open legal question still. But
I want to bring you in, Doug, because
this
as I
is
mentioned
crazy,
earlier,
guys. They have gave Trump permission.
The National Guard
Send in the troops,
against
they
the will
said.
of the governors of these states. It's something that has galvanized some of the protesters that were out there in the No Kings protest, right? There was 7 million people around that, according to the organizers, and they were there. I mean, we had reporters there, and the people we spoke to, some of them very moderate views, are really concerned that the country is sliding into an autocracy for different reasons. And then you have Speaker Johnson and other Republicans. I had Republican McLean on earlier, who were criticizing them and saying that they're communists and that they're small and that they're...
No problem, my guy. Support whoever you want to support. We're a non-biased channel over here. All opinions are welcome. Just keep it respectful.
Anti-Semitic. What do you make of the way Republicans are handling this?
Look, they're going to follow the lead of Donald Trump and be dismissive of that. I don't think the protests were un-American. Protesting is very American. But I do think that they sort of took their eye off the ball here. And I say that because it was a beautiful weekend in Washington, D.C., and New York and Philadelphia this weekend. And all of those are just across a river from states that have very close gubernatorial races. And if I'm a Democrat, I want those people on one of those final Saturdays going into a campaign, not at a protest. I want them knocking on doors and making phone calls in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, in Union and Bergen County, New Jersey, certainly Northern Virginia. And by having them in a protest, when you're coming down to crunch time in a campaign, seems to me to take your eye off the ball. What I'd do instead is try and win those races as much as you can, have those volunteers on the ground, do your protest after those elections. If you're successful, then you can talk about the momentum. You can say, look, we've just won these races and all these people are fighting on the ground for us now.
They said not millions, you're lying. There's a lot of people out there, guys.
New Jersey and Virginia, where you've got governor's races. I think a refrain for many people is, okay, what now? You got 7 million people, what now? Did you collect everybody's emails and you're going to raise funds from them? Like, are you going to set up a phone chain and have them volunteering in 2028? What now? And yes, the energy and the activism and enthusiasm, like you said, it's American and it's wonderful, but if people really care, even if it's not about those two races, like today, like literally today on Monday, are people just still cleaning up the signs they made, or what's next?
It's a fair point. I wonder what you think, Mo.
No, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. Just make sure you're walking and chewing gum. I don't disagree with that, right? 7 million people around the country, many of whom are not close to New Jersey, not close to Virginia, desperate for an outlet to show their disapproval with this president and his policies and his actions. The fact that they came together was fantastic. Now, what do you do with that energy moving forward is a key question. I also think that the president keeps giving them a reason to mobilize, not just with his actions, but we all remember, it wasn't that long ago, that the Republican Party ran an entire campaign against Hillary Clinton for using the word deplorables to describe some Trump voters. And politically, that was a smart thing for them to do. This president and this speaker and their allies are saying anyone who disapproves, anyone that showed up, and we all saw a lot of those protesters, little old ladies standing on street corners waving signs, are un-American and deserve to have excrement dropped on their heads, as the president showed in that AI video, right? If Democrats can actually use that to harness some of the same energy that Republicans did back in 2016, They just have to do it. They just have to figure out how to organize and mobilize these people.
All right, so we get that they gave Trump, basically permission to send troops into Portland, guys. The National Guard can go there. It was granted by the Supreme Court, guys. Looks like they'll be pulling up in Portland anytime now. Now to another situation that affects us all, this government shutdown, man. And Mike Johnson, once again, and the Republicans most definitely came out to speak about it, as well as the Democrats. Y'all know I'm going to show you both sides. This is a little bit of what Mike Johnson had to say.
For those of you that are keeping track, this will be day 20. 20 days since the Democrats recklessly shut down the United States government. And the Democrats are making some very costly history here. Don't lose that. In all that's happening. This is now the third longest shutdown in history. And when you look at it carefully, it is now already the longest full shutdown of all time. You had an example in 2018 and you had one back in 1995 that were longer, but they were partial shutdowns because they only affected a part of the federal government. This is everything. And it's also important for us to know this is the first time in history that any party has had the audacity to shut down the government over a totally clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution. This is a political stunt, and it's the first time it's been done, and it is the most costly, most selfish, most dangerous political stunt in the history of the United States Congress, because as we have stood here day after day after day explaining all the Americans who are being harmed by this nonsense. And the Senate Democrats have zero shame about this. They don't have any shame at all about the pain that they're inflicting upon hardworking families, upon soldiers and law enforcement officers and veterans and the elderly and the disabled and women, infants, and children. Services to all those categories and paychecks to those folks are being stalled because Democrats are playing games. Today, Leader Thune in the Senate will once again bring the clean, nonpartisan CR to the floor for a vote. They will have another chance. Democrats will have their 12th opportunity to pass the bill. It is the same bill that they themselves supported just 7 months ago, and Chuck Schumer gave impassioned speeches on the floor about how it was the only option. And don't forget, they did it 13 times under the Biden administration. Very similar measures, but not now. Something's changed. Over the weekend, we saw what it was all about. The Democrats made crystal clear that this is about politics. The politics were on full display. The politics, the spectacle, is what the mobs, the crowds, the rallies this week were all about. It was quite ironic, though. The irony was very glaring. They called it the No Kings Rally. But the great irony, of course, that we pointed out over and over was if President Trump was a king, the government would be open. If President Trump was a king, he would have closed the national parks and the National Mall, so they couldn't have had the rally out here. By the way, that's what President Obama did during the shutdown in 2013, closed all the parks and the National Mall.
Do y'all agree with what's being said,
here in Washington, you had Senators Bernie Sanders and Chris Murphy and Cory Booker and others marching in the streets. Now, these are the same senators who voted over and over to shut down the legislative branch and hand the reins to President Trump. They're decrying the situation that they themselves created. This has always been about the spectacle. Chuck Schumer himself joined the spectacle in New York City. And it's interesting to note his activities there. He was standing side by side some of the most radical groups that maybe ever...
The government has been shut down for 20 days, guys. How are y'all feeling about it? Let me know down in the chat. Make sure y'all double tapping that screen. That's how you get the likes up. Or you can click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. And most definitely subscribe, y'all, to the channel if you are new. This is Everything News. Right now, we talking about this government shutdown. This is Mike Johnson speaking right now.
On U.S. soil. They openly advertised as co-sponsors of the event in New York City. The Communist Party USA, the Democrat Socialist of America, the Freedom Socialist Party, the Young Communist League of New York, many others. Do we need any further evidence? They're not hiding this. They're out in the open. They're not shy about it, because this is the core constituency of the modern Democratic Party. These are objective facts. Look at what's happening. Open your eyes. It is exactly why Chuck Schumer is pandering in this whole charade. We've explained from the very beginning, this shutdown is about one thing and one thing alone. Chuck Schumer's political survival. Now, I noted on Friday, the lead organizer of the rallies this weekend issued an open threat to Democrats. Quote, "The cavalry is coming in on October 18th, and they're either going to be celebrating with you, or they're going to be calling for new leadership." Now, that's a direct threat to Chuck Schumer, and he heard the message. And so did Hakeem Jeffries in the House. And that's why neither of them were here doing their jobs. Instead, they were out in New York and California. They were catering to the same radical base that is just days away from electing an open Marxist as mayor of New York City. And now that Chuck Schumer has had his spectacle, he's had his big protest against America, this is our plea. We're asking, and I think everybody in this room and everybody watching, listening to our voices this morning should be hoping that he is finally now ready to go to work and end this shutdown and stop inflicting pain on the American people. Republicans have been working. We are ready. We've been doing this. It's been over a month now. We passed our responsible short-term solution to keep the government open while we just simply finish our work to fund the government openly and transparently, and Republicans are completely united on that front. On the other side, Democrats can't even agree amongst themselves. You got different subgroups among them. You've got a few reasonable Democrats who know shutdowns hurt the people, and they've already voted for our bill. They want to keep the government open. Then you've got others desperate to prop up the failures of Obamacare with no reforms whatsoever to make the program more affordable. That's what we're fighting for. And you've got AOC calling for her own negotiations on live TV, and you've got Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries still unable to articulate what it is they need to reopen the government. It illustrates the point once again.
Is he telling the truth, guys? I think both parties hold responsibilities, guys, but each one of them are busy blaming each other. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Continue to get those likes up by double tapping your mobile device screen, or clicking those three dots, hitting that thumbs up, man. 20 days of government shutdown. Is it necessary?
This was never about a solution. It was about creating an issue. Now that Democrats have had their protest and publicity stunts, I just pray that they come to their senses and end this shutdown and reopen the government this week. Republicans are waiting, the American people are waiting, and we are ready to act. As evidence of just how united Republicans are in this fight, I've asked two of our prominent leaders in the House Republican Conference. I've got House Freedom Caucus Chairman Andy Harris. Dr. Harris is also an appropriator, and House Freedom Caucus Policy Chair Chip Roy of Texas. I'll turn it over to Dr. Harris first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Each other,
earlier this month,
the
the House Freedom Caucus made history by hosting our first press call held with the Speaker. And today we're doing it again, standing shoulder to shoulder at a full leadership press conference as part of the united Republican front against this Democrat-led shutdown. On the Sunday morning shows yesterday, the Democrats tried once again, unconvincingly, to say that they are not to be blamed for the shutdown. But the reason that the government remains shut down is becoming crystal clear to Americans. It's because Senate Democrats have chosen to pander to their radical base instead of doing their job for the American people. Senate Democrats have had the opportunity to vote 11 times for the House-passed bill that pays our troops, pays our law enforcement, and pays our air traffic controllers now, and would immediately reopen the government. Instead, they've sided with the same radical activists who filled the streets this weekend chanting "No Kings" at rallies backed by the Communist Party USA and socialists, the same people who claim to hate power while demanding more control over your life. The question before us now is simple. Will at least 5 Senate Democrats relent and break from their party's left-wing fringe and vote to reopen the government today? Let's also be honest about what the Democrats are really fighting for. They're demanding taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants. They want to eliminate work requirements for welfare for able-bodied adults who could work but choose not to. And they're defending hundreds of billions of dollars in continued corporate welfare for big, profitable health insurance companies that have already made a fortune off Obamacare with the Biden bonuses that the Democrats scheduled to expire at the end of this year. House Republicans have already done their job. The only thing standing between America and a reopened government is a handful of Senate Democrats too afraid of their activist base to do the right thing. But it's time for those 5 Senate Democrats to show some courage, stand against their leadership, but with hard-working Americans, and vote to reopen the government. I want to close by thanking Speaker Johnson for his leadership in standing firm against the radical left's unreasonable demands and for standing with the American people. Thank you, and then I'll turn this over to Congressman Chip Roy.
Thanks, Andy, and I want to thank the Speaker and the leadership team and the President for their leadership during these last several weeks. I'd say it's good to see you, but I mean, honestly, I'd rather be in Texas, but I'm happy to be here today with these guys. No one disputes one obvious fact. It is Democrats who have chosen not to fund government. Can we at least establish that truth, right? It is in fact the truth. And the question is why? And you saw it on Saturday. It was basically for a political rally for cover for Chuck Schumer, who's in his own political battle in New York. That's the truth. And the irony of this is this No Kings rally. What are we actually talking about? I mean, it wasn't President Trump, but Democrats who tried to make us take a shot or lose our job. It wasn't President Trump, but Democrats who were burning our cities to the ground in 2020 and attacking police officers. It wasn't President Trump, but it was Democrats who want to push boys into girls' locker rooms, who want to force surgeries upon children. It wasn't President Trump, but Democrats who pushed fraudulent mail-in ballots in 2020 and left the elections in question. And then when Americans dared to question that stuff, they sought to jail the American people. They weaponized the government against the American people. And now they want to turn around and say they're going to have a No Kings rally? This is the dying breaths of a bankrupt party, in my humble opinion. All too happy to shut down the government and then have a Chicago teacher walk around with this symbol against her neck. Somebody tell me how that's appropriate. Where are the Democrats that are crying out about how horrific that was? And by the way, where are the Democrats who are calling out the Attorney General in Virginia for calling on the death of children of a political opponent? Where is Abigail Spanberger, one of our former colleagues running for governor of Virginia? Do they not have the courage to call out fellow Democrats for that absurdity? The truth is we have a president. We don't have a king. We have a president who loves our country, who rightly said yesterday that he's working his ass off to make this country great. He is correct. Brokering peace deals in the Middle East, rebuilding our military, rooting out DEI and critical race theory, declaring cartels as terrorist organizations, focusing on Antifa, defunding the World Health Organization, getting us out of UNRWA.
Do y'all agree? Is he telling the truth or is this a bunch of mumbo jumbo? Let me know how you feel in the comments. Make sure you double tapping that screen. That's how you get the lights up. Click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, and most definitely subscribe to the channel, man. These are the Republicans giving their views about why the government has been shut down for 20 days, guys.
Making sure that we target the Southern Poverty Law Center, who are going after people like our friends at the Family Research Council or ultimately Charlie Kirk. Securing the border, passing the Lake and Riley Act. These are the things the American people want us to do, not shutting down the government for political rallies. And the truth is, the Marxists, the radicals, and the Islamists, the Democratic Party promoted this weekend. They cannot handle the truth. The truth is the king, and that king is Jesus. And the president has been willing to say it. His administration has been willing to say it. And Charlie Kirk was willing to say it, and he got killed for it. Democrats are using this ridiculous political exercise to hold hostage the government of the American people, pretending it's about health care. Meanwhile, it is Democrats who've been holding the American people hostage to an unconscionably broken health care system that they themselves created. We're saying no more. We're the party that's standing up for hardworking Americans who can't afford health care, who can't afford insurance. We're not for giving more money to the insurance companies. We're not for a $400 billion blank check to big corporate America and corporate welfare, like my friend from Maryland said. We're not for health care for illegal aliens, but for standing up for American citizens to be able to afford health care, to carry forward the president's good policies, like short-term limited duration plans and other ways that people can actually go and afford health care.
Now, they're saying that the Democrats want to give health care to illegal immigrants. The Democrats are saying that the Republicans don't want anybody really to have health insurance, and if they do, it's gonna be sky high. Who's lying? Who's telling the truth? Y'all let me know.
We're for law and order. We're not for hate-filled lawlessness. We're for common sense, not radical surgeries on our children without parental consent to say a boy can be a girl. We're for a message of hope, hope born in the freedom of those who fought to give it to us through their blood and also through the blood of our Savior Jesus Christ. Republicans are working to make America great again. Democrats have been trying to run out the clock. And for Hakeem and Chuck, their time is up. Let's turn it over to Steve.
Thank you, Chip. Well, you can see Republicans are united strongly in working to open the government back up. We all voted to prevent a government shutdown, and that bill went through the House weeks ago on almost exclusively a party line vote. And since then, for weeks and weeks, that bill has been in the Senate, where Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, consistently have voted to shut the government down. And we've said all this is about is Chuck Schumer trying to appease his most radical base, the most far-left elements of the Democrat Party, the people who have taken over the Democrat Party. Frankly, they've held Chuck Schumer hostage, and so now Chuck Schumer is holding the American people hostage. And this weekend, we got to see on display what that Hate America rally we've been talking about was really all about. You could see some of the signs. These are just a few. But over and over again, you could see signs like 8647. I think everybody knows what that's about. Multiple signs like that advocating for the death of our president. And where are the Chuck Schumers of the world calling that out? They didn't call it out. They actually went and celebrated with those people that are advocating for the murder of President Trump and other Republicans. It's insanity. Yet that's where the Democrat Party in Washington has gone. Most Democrats around the country don't buy into that far-left radical socialist base that Chuck Schumer's catering to. And that's why so many are walking away from that party. But in the meantime, that's who is controlling the Democrat Party here in the United States Senate and in Congress. And that's why we continue to be at this stalemate. Not because there's some ability for us to come together and find a common ground. We've been trying. We had a provision in the working families tax cut that would have lowered premiums for families, healthcare premiums, by 11%. It was scored by the Congressional Budget Office to do that. 11% reduction in premiums for families. And you might ask, well, why is that not law of the land? Because it passed the House. Well, when it got over to the Senate, it was Senate Democrats who went to the parliamentarian and fought to get that provision removed because they don't care about lowering premiums for families. They really don't, and they showed it over and over again. What do they care about? They care about catering to the most radical elements of their base. You could see the sponsors, and it's been mentioned before, the Communist Party of America, the Socialist Party. Well, that's who's taken over the Democrat Party. It's not who America is. America is not a socialist nation. It's surely not a communist nation. But the Democrat Party here in Washington is trying to pull the country down that rat hole. We've seen it over and over again. That experiment's been tried time and time again, and you could go look at the scrap heap of history to see other countries where it's failed. Why won't they go protest over in those countries and just be a part of those countries where it's already failed? But they come here and they lie about our president. They call him a king, where ironically, they're also advocating for the death of that democratically elected president. And so you've got to...
I don't know if I heard anybody rallying for the unaliving of Trump, man. I ain't gonna lie. But hey, man, you know, especially as far as the politicians go. But hey, that's what the Republicans are saying. They saying that the Democrats have been rallying behind basically unaliving Trump, guys. How do y'all feel about that? Is that the truth? Or is there some more mumbo jumbo? Let me know in the comments.
See it all on full display. And hopefully that's what Chuck Schumer needed to go through to show them that he's still keeping the government shut down to appease that group. But now that rally is over. And the pain that he has inflicted on American families continues. It's time for Chuck Schumer to end the pain he's inflicting on millions of American families and finally vote. Just 5 Senate Democrats need to come together to vote to open this government back up again. We still have big differences, and we'll be negotiating our differences in the weeks ahead. But it's time he releases the American people from this crazy experiment. With that, bring up our whip. Tom Emmer.
As the Speaker said, we're now on day 20 of the Democrats' shutdown. For everyone tuning in, here's a quick review of everything that's happened in the last 3 weeks. Republicans did our jobs. We passed a clean, nonpartisan government funding bill that Democrats supported just 6 months ago and passed 13 times under the Biden administration. 11 times now, Democrats have refused to pass our clean CR, shutting the government down in the process and forcing Americans to pay the price. In order to simply turn the lights back on, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have demanded $1.5 trillion in new spending for things like taxpayer-funded health care for illegals and cutting $50 billion from our rural health care fund. They've taken the American people hostage while pointing fingers at us for refusing to concede to their absurd wish list of demands.
Hey guys, let's take time to double tap that screen. That's how you hit the like button, or you can simply click those 3 dots in the right hand corner and hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. This is everything that's being said about this government shutdown, guys. The government has been shut down for 20 days.
But Republicans have been clear. We will not negotiate under hostage conditions, nor will we pay a ransom. The Democrats' position is totally unreasonable. It's hypocritical, and it's pure partisan politics in a desperate attempt to score points with the radical, pro-terrorist wing of their party. Now that their Hate America rally is over, I hope that at least 5 Senate Democrats will finally do the right and responsible thing by breaking ranks with Chuck Schumer, passing our clean CR, and reopening the government. If they continue to refuse, we're going to continue to hold them to account. And I hope members of the media in this room are going to do the same. With that, I turn it back to our Speaker, Mike Johnson.
Okay, a few questions. Chad, go ahead. Chad.
Thank you. We understand concerns about air traffic control. We understand that they're going to lay off workers at the they're going to lay off workers at the Nuclear Security Administration. What keeps you up at night about what parts of this federal government are not operating?
Well, those are 2 good examples. The question is, when the administration is required to triage federal spending, they have to look and evaluate what are the most essential and what are the less essential functions of the federal government. And they look at policy, personnel, and all these offices. But the things that concern me the most are TSA, for example. I mean, you're right. We are shorthanded already with air traffic controllers, with TSA agents, keeping the airports safe and our flights safe. We cannot afford this nonsense. And I think the Democrats in their heart of hearts know that. When you're talking about nuclear deterrence, our former colleague Brandon Williams was a congressman from New York, and now he's now been confirmed, and he's one of the people in charge of nuclear deterrence for the United States. He's a former officer on a nuclear submarine. He brings a lot of experience to that job, and he came to sit down with me a few days ago, end of last week, and he said, "I just want to articulate for you how serious this is in terms of national defense." And we didn't get into the classified parts there. We weren't in the SCIF, but suffice it to say that every day that the government is shut down, it is a danger to the American people. We're in a nuclear arms race with adversaries right now. It can't be any more serious than this. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, you've seen what they're up to.
Ooh, a nuclear arm race. Lord, have mercy, guys. Oh, my goodness.
America is the last great superpower on the planet, but we have to maintain that status. And if we get behind on funding or personnel or any of these projects that we're involved in that are at a level that we can't talk about in here, it's very serious. So you have every function of the federal government that is being adversely affected. Of course, it's troops. We got the troops paid, thankfully, the middle of this month, because the president did heroic work. They found money within DOD that they could use on a temporary basis. But that money is going to be exhausted. You can't have the troops unpaid. You can't have Border Patrol agents unpaid. They've got to defend the country. And this is not a game.
You can't have the American people unpaid. This is not a game. Y'all got to take that into account on both sides.
And that's why you see us so frustrated up here every day. Again, I'm gonna reiterate what we said earlier. This is the first time in history that we've been in this situation. There has never been a party that shut down the entire government, or a party that shut down, over a clean CR. for nothing but political partisan purposes. Their rally illustrated exactly what we've been saying for the last 20 days. It's about politics, and it's disgusting. Yes, sir.
Speaker Johnson, you say that the Democrats had a Hate America rally, but what does it say that the President of the United States over the weekend released a video of him pooping on the American people?
The president uses...
Oh, wow. The president did he released an AI picture of him pooping on the American people. Wow.
Social media to make a point. You can argue he's probably the most effective person who's ever used social media for that. He is using satire to make a point. He is not calling for the murder of his political opponents, and that's what these people are doing. I mean, they're in one of these photos. I think there's a picture of the president hanging in effigy by a noose on one of these. The one on the far end. I mean, it's unconscionable. Look, America is built on the idea of free speech. You have the right to protest. Of course, we jealously guard that. I mean, Chip and I are attorneys. We've defended that right in the courts. But what they're doing right now is different. They are trying to incite.
I see somebody saying that they were lying, but he didn't deny it, guys. He didn't deny that picture exists. So this is a part of the Republican Party, a part that Trump backs, that backs Trump. He most definitely didn't deny that picture was out there. So I'm not so sure that he's lying, guys.
It's not funny. You don't mock a president who has already had 2 failed assassination attempts on his life. This is not a game. And the idea that communists would be supporting this is unconscionable to us. Look, when we give tours of the House chamber, and we bring in constituents, and we point out all the historical facts and images around the building, I always start with "In God We Trust," which of course is right above the rostrum of the speaker's podium. And if you look in the visitor's guide to the House chamber, it says on page 14, when was that put there? Well, it's put there in the early 60s, 1961, as I recall. And it says in the guide that it was put there, Congress voted to put that there as a rebuke to the Cold War era Soviets. Why? Because their philosophy, that's what it says, a rebuke to their philosophy. Their philosophy was Marxism.
Hey guys, we got to take time to get these likes up. Let's double tap that screen or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. Let's get the likes all the way up. We got 1,800 people in the building and only got 159 likes. So what are we doing? Let's double tap the screen if we're on a mobile device or click those 3 dots and hit that thumbs up, y'all. Get the likes up. It helps out the channel. Shout out to everybody in the building, guys.
It begins with the premise that there is no God. It is antithetical to who we are as Americans. The Declaration of Independence says we're created by God and he's the one that gave us our rights. It is in God whom we trust. That is the national motto. That's what America's built on. What those people are advocating for is at its essence un-American. And when they go the next step and they call for violence on political officials in an environment that is already a heightened threat environment, it's dangerous stuff. They had the right to do it. Congratulations, they didn't burn any buildings down. That's a big achievement for the left, to have some kind of gathering where they don't have a loot-in and riots and burn a building down. There was, I think, some in Portland, they threw bottles and bricks and stuff at the ICE facility because that's what they do for fun now out there. They had a free speech event. Congratulations. But you need to look past that and look at what it is they're advocating for openly, and it's really scary stuff. Yes, ma'am. Second row. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Speaker, we know Senator...
I was actually pointing to her. I don't think you've asked a question before. Go ahead.
Hi, Oriana with Notice. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays said over the weekend that she plans to file a lawsuit against you for not swearing Adelita Grijalva. Have you or your office spoken to her in the last couple of days about that, and what's your response?
Somebody's going to file a lawsuit against Mike,
yet another Democrat politician from Arizona is trying to get national publicity. So now it's the state AG who's going to sue me because Grijalva is not yet sworn in. Let me go through this again for you, and I have some updates. First of all, following the Pelosi precedent, I was on some of the Sunday shows and was asked about this because this is all they have to talk about right now. When Julia Letlow was elected under very similar circumstances to fill the seat of her deceased husband, who passed away tragically by COVID, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Pelosi at the time, took 25 days to administer the oath of office to her. It wasn't just Julia. The Pelosi precedent extends even further because when Pat Ryan and Joe Sempolinski were elected during an August recess, They waited 21 days to administer the oath to those to rep-elects because they were not in session. We are not in legislative session. The chronology is important. Rep. Grijalva won her race in I think it was the last week of September, after we had already gone out of session. So I will administer the oath to her, I hope on the first day we come back, legislative session. I'm willing and anxious to do that. In the meantime, instead of doing TikTok videos, she should be serving her constituents. She could be taking their calls. She can be directing them, trying to help them through the crisis that the Democrats have created by shutting down the government. Oh, and by the way, I also did find out this little tidbit that should be interesting to you. When a rep-elect comes in on a special election in particular, it is up to the leaders of her party, his or her party in the House, to give them guidance and direction. One of the first things they do is reach out to what we do, is reach out, majority leader, or reaches out to the rep-elect and says, hey, welcome, congratulations. Here's all the things you need to do. Here's the office of the chief administrative officer of the House, and they will help you get all of your computers set up and your passwords and all the rest. That call was apparently never made by Rep. Grijalva, and I don't know if the Democrat leader's office didn't inform her of that. But I found out this morning that the person who runs that office in the chief administrative office is on furlough because they voted to shut the government down. And so that person didn't reach out affirmatively, but now it's been sorted out, and I'm told they're going to her office today because she made a TikTok video saying that she couldn't use her computers. Well, she'll be able to use her computers now. Okay, she has 16 staffers. They need to be taking calls, and they need to be helping their constituents, just as Republicans are out in their districts right now, helping them navigate the chaos that is created by Democrats who are playing political games. Yes, next question. Yes, sir.
Are we not fast approaching the point where this CR doesn't buy you time for appropriations?
Well, I would defer to my appropriator buddy up here, but here's the thing. The appropriators have been doing great work. They're continuing to work, even during the shutdown.
Oh, hold on. Hold on.
All right, as you see, they're just listening into some of those opening remarks.
Not what I was looking for. Hold on, guys.
House Speaker Mike Johnson for this.
All right, so we got a little bit from the Republicans, guys, right? It's only fair that we let the Democrats talk. Let's see what Chuck Schumer and them had to say, guys. Let's go.
Thank you for waiting. I'm proud to be joined by Senators Murray and Booker. Well, here we are.
And you know they blame this shutdown on this guy right here, Schumer. They saying Schumer is playing a political game with the American people, basically not doing what he's supposed to do to open up the government. Everything falls down on his shoulders. The Schumer shutdown is what they call it. Let's see what Chuck Schumer has to say about this for himself, guys. This is wild, man. Shout out to Yaya for that 20. She say, thanks, Mahel. No problem, Yaya. I notice that you always here and you always support. I appreciate you. Well, welcome to the squad, Yaya.
On day 15 of the Trump shutdown. That's right. It's now over 2 weeks since Republicans shut the government down.
Schumer says the Republicans did it, and it's the Trump shutdown. The Republicans say it's the Schumer shutdown, and it's Schumer's fault. Who do y'all believe, guys? But let's hear him out.
Because they refused to negotiate and fix the healthcare crisis that they themselves created. In fact, House Republicans haven't been here doing their job in weeks. Thousands of federal workers continue to work and not get paid. House Republicans continue to get paid and don't work. Meanwhile, open enrollment starts in 2 weeks. Americans will have to choose plans that send this cost skyrocketing. As we speak, right as we speak, families are getting letters for their new health insurance.
Yeah, welcome to Everything News, where we cover both sides. We are a non-biased channel. We're not on any side, man. I'm on the side of right. And what's right to me is that these guys get it together and open up the government so that the American people can get the resources that they need from our American government. That's just my opinion. You feel however you want to feel. That's just how I feel. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Just keep it respectful, guys, in that chat. But most definitely voice your opinion and let it be heard. And most definitely double tap that screen, get the likes up, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new. This is Chuck Schumer and why he feels like the government is still shut down.
This is in my home state of New York. It happens to coincidentally be in Stefanik's district. Look at the change. This is a bronze plan on Excelis, which is one of our big insurers. $282 a month. That's a lot. for a family, a working family. But look what it goes up to if we don't renew the credits. $1,679. That's close to $1,400 a month. That's like $16,000 a year. Just imagine. Millions of New Yorkers are going to get these notices. Tens of millions of Americans are going to get these notices. And they're just going to say to themselves, what? How am I going to pay this? But you know what the alternative is? Having no health care. And imagine parents thinking, what if my kid gets sick? And there's no health care for them because I can't afford insurance and I can't afford the cost out of my pocket. So these are not just numbers. These are people who are suffering and going to suffer even more. So we have to do something. And right now, Republicans are letting these tax credits expire. Republicans, Donald Trump, Republicans, House and Senate are responsible for this number going up, including Representative Stefanik. So, for the average family or small business owner or farmer in rural upstate New York, spending over $20,000 a year on health care is unfathomable. And nationwide, it's true. Guess what district? Does anyone know? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but does anyone know what district hurts more than any out of any state in the country? Speaker Johnson's. So it shows how much he cares about his constituents. According to a recent report, 85,000 Louisiana residents will lose health insurance. So it's just unfathomable as why Republicans are hiding from this issue that would so hurt American families. Republican policies have skyrocketed costs to historic highs on everything from beef to electricity costs. Costs is the number one issue facing American people. How they're going to pay each week their bills. And because of Trump's tariffs, because of what they did on electric rates, because food costs are going up so much, and health care is the tip of the spear of that cost increase. And yet, Republicans are not moving forward. People get sick, people will lose their insurance, people will die. Plain and simple. Republicans know this, and yet neither Trump nor congressional Republicans are even trying to solve the health care crisis. That is just a horror for the American people. Now, on Argentina...
We got 1,400 people in the building, guys. Can we at least get 300 on that like button? Let's click those three dots and hit that thumbs up, y'all. Support the channel. I'm bringing y'all everything we know about the government shutdown from both parties. Whether you want to hear it or not, this is what unbiased means. That means you hear from each side and you determine what you feel like the truth is as they're saying it, guys. Let's get those likes up. Double tap that mobile device, the screen on your mobile device, or you can click those three dots and hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel, guys. Don't forget to subscribe.
Donald Trump's busy trying to deliver $40 billion to bail out Argentina. It's the new Trump doctrine of foreign policy. Argentina first. Rather than fix the healthcare crisis devastating Americans here at home, Trump's doubling down on sending $40 billion to a right-wing MAGA strongman in Argentina. Now he's trying to pressure American banks to pony up, on top of the $20 billion in taxpayer money that he's sending there. This shows the administration's priorities. They'd rather give $40 billion to a MAGA dictator than help relieve Americans from the healthcare crisis they are suffering from. Whatever happened to America first, Donald Trump? Whatever happened to America first? It's time for Republicans to end the chaos and get serious, and we are doing everything we can to make that happen. Now, about the rifts. Every day the Republican chaos seems to get worse. They seem to double chaos almost on a daily basis, and nowhere is this clearer than at HHS. Trump and Vogt managed to do something truly astonishing. They, quote, accidentally fired twice as many public health workers as intended. It's vicious, it's mean, and it's incompetence, all wrapped up in one. Let me say that again. They meant to fire hundreds of people, but they were so careless they accidentally fired hundreds more. They chose to vindictively fire thousands of federal workers and couldn't even do that right. No one is forcing Trump to fire scientists or doctors in the middle of the season. They're doing it because they want to. The goal of Project 2025, a vote, and it seems Trump, is to just decimate the federal government no matter how it hurts the workers and no matter how it hurts the American people. They're gutting America's public health defenses because they want to. And don't take my word for it. Senator Lee said, quote, "Russ Vought has been dreaming of this moment ever since puberty." Republicans need to get serious. They need to negotiate. We are ready to negotiate, reopen the government, and deliver desperately needed health care to the American people. Senator Murray.
Who's lying, guys? Who's lying? Let me know.
You know, for weeks we have been hearing a lot of heartbreaking stories from folks back home in my home state of Washington, families who are absolutely panicking about their premiums that are doubling. There's small business owners who are having to think about abandoning the job they love to get employer-sponsored health care elsewhere, or just foregoing coverage altogether. But today, I actually want to talk about our neighbors.
Shout out to Rika for being a member for the last 13 months. Shout out to you. Thank you for your continued support.
Idaho. Because today is the first day of open enrollment in Idaho, which means today, right now, families are getting their first real look at the cost of Republicans' inaction on health care. Republicans don't seem very eager to talk about that, but there is no running from the fact that these hikes are going to crush people. That's why last week I actually held a call with people in Idaho who are watching their health care costs go through the roof, and here's what I heard. One retiree who's not old enough yet to be on Medicare told me about how her premiums are going to jump by 173%.
Whoa!
Almost triple. You think that's bad? Another Idahoan I spoke with had learned that with the tax credits, his premium will be $367 a month. Without those tax credits, a whopping $2,232 a month. But Bob and Susan are far from alone. There are more than 100,000 people in Idaho who rely on the ACA tax credits to help them afford their health care coverage. Today, those families will log on to shop for a health plan and feel their heart drop as they see these prices have skyrocketed. They're wondering if they can even afford health care now. It is terrifying, and it's happening right now in Idaho. And it's coming to states across the country in 2 weeks. Several other states have already opened their window shopping for these health plans. People in my state have already gotten notices about premiums doubling. And yet, all the while, Republican leaders are trying to stick their heads in the sand and trying to pretend that everything is fine. On one hand, we have many Republicans saying, what's the rush? We can talk about maybe doing something on health care later. Never mind the fact that they refused to talk about this earlier, even as they rushed to jam through tax breaks for billionaires a few months ago. And on the other hand, we have some Republicans who are basically saying they don't want to do anything. In fact, some Republicans still wish they could repeal the Affordable Care Act. How detached from reality can Republicans get? It is bad enough so many of them can see the iceberg coming and are saying, we'll worry about that after the ship goes down. But we've also got Republicans saying, bet you wish this ship had sunk earlier. Some Republicans are all but cheering for these higher premiums. Republicans may have chosen to shut down the government rather than address this health care, but Idaho just opened up enrollment, and the rest of the nation is around the bend. President Trump and Republican leadership may try to bury their heads in the sand, but they are not going to be able to bury the healthcare premiums are doubling, tripling, and even in some places, quadrupling. Families do not have the luxury of ignoring health care. But instead of putting a single penny forward to help people afford health care, Donald Trump is giving $20 billion taxpayer money to Argentina in a bailout. What happened to America first? So the bottom line has not changed. When Republicans are ready to get serious, Democrats will be at the negotiating table where we have been for weeks, ready to reach a bipartisan deal that opens up the government and addresses this health care crisis. Thank you.
So this is a really terrifying time, and I know that people down here in Washington, I think, make a mistake when they think this is about politics. It's about people. When people think this is about Washington as usual, this is about working people and what is, frankly, outrageous in the terms of what it's going to do to their lives. Down in these marble halls, we are not talking to Americans right now, but when I go home to my state, I see so many people who are facing what is for their families a moment of deep crisis. When I come to Washington, I hear about how many days, counting the days of a government shutdown. Well, families all across America right now are counting the days before they know the staggeringly devastating thing is going to happen, which is going to be their health care costs doubling and tripling. I've sat down with small business people as thousands upon thousands of small businesses all across the country get their health insurance through the exchanges, who tell me very plainly they cannot afford to keep health insurance for them or their few employees if the rates skyrocket again in just a matter of weeks. I talk to moms who have special needs kids who are in this state of panic that if their healthcare costs go up, it will devastate their family and their ability to sustain care. We are in the midst of a healthcare crisis, the likes of which we have never seen before in the history of our country. Literally, 2026 is going to be the year, if we do nothing, that the most people in American history lose their health coverage between what the Republicans have already done to Medicaid and what's going to happen with the ACA in the beginning of the year. I cannot tell you how outraged I am that we here in Washington are having a fight over a budget where our Republican colleagues are not even willing to sit at the table right now and negotiate a way to help Americans in their time of crisis. And what frustrates me about this is it's not that hard to do something about it. I've watched over the last 10 months as Republicans have seemed to be able to find the money for so many other of their priorities, whether it's the explosion in hiring they're doing in ICE as we see the work going on in cities from coast to coast, whether it's finding the money to give billionaires the biggest tax cut, corporations, big tax cut. They seem to find the money for anything, and we're hearing now that the president is trying to bail out one of his friends with $20 million of taxpayer money. We can come up with money for those things, but not for struggling families, struggling small businesses, without the people who are struggling in our states, who are watching the clock tick closer and closer to the point where they can't afford their insurance. Budgets are reflections of our values, and we're standing up for what I think is the greatest of all American values, is that we stand for each other. Now, I believe, unfortunately, this is part of a plan. It's very clear to me. There's an old saying, don't listen to what I say, watch what I do. Well, we have seen Republicans over the year do everything they can to gut and cut or end the Affordable Care Act. We watched them take dozens and dozens of votes in Donald Trump's first term to try to end the Affordable Care Act. And then they told us what they wanted to do should they gain power as they have in the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. They literally spelled it out in Project 2025 that they wanted to gut, cut, and end the Affordable Care Act. And so here we are, watching their plan to take health care away from millions and millions of Americans. And so we say no. This is not about politics for us, it's about people. It's not about business as usual in Washington. It's about fighting something that's deeply unusual in Americans, where people in this body turn their back on Americans in their greatest state of crisis, because losing your health care, as millions will.
Is this the truth or some more mumbo jumbo? Let me know in the chat, guys. Are y'all rocking with the Republicans or are y'all rocking with the Democrats so far? Who's telling the truth and who's lying?
Well, if we do nothing now, is a existential crisis for so many American families. Where do you stand? Where do you stand when it comes for healthcare for American people? Well, I know where Democrats stand, and I'm proud to be standing for people's healthcare. I'm proud to be standing to defend against what Republicans seem intent to do, which is to end the Affordable Care Act, or at least gut it so that it's out of reach for millions of Americans. Thank you.
Leader Schumer.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Leader, the Republicans have signaled that they're going to put a defense appropriations bill on the floor tomorrow. That would be going through the regular appropriations process. Will Democrats support that defense bill?
We have to see what they're going to put on the floor. They haven't told us yet. Yes, no, right here.
Mr. Leader, can you just talk to us about your comments last week in an interview where you said every day gets better? Of course, the Republicans have seized on that. Can you explain what you meant?
Look, every day more and more Americans see how bad this health crisis is as they get their notices, as they hear all about it, and every day they are seeing more and more that Democrats are on their side fighting for what they believe in. Yes.
Thank you. Early voting in New York begins in 10 days. When are we going to see an endorsement on your party's candidate?
As I said, we've had several good conversations. We've worked together in the past, and the conversations will continue. Yes, Chad.
Thank you. There's a town hall meeting tonight on CNN with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders about the government shutdown. Is it a concern to you that the progressives and the left wing get so much attention sometimes compared to moderates, and does that distort the Democrats' message?
We're fighting on the same side. We all believe that there's a health care crisis, and we all believe that we have to address that with the American people. Go ahead, Manu.
Republicans have rejected all of your demands so far. So isn't it incumbent upon you to compromise, move a little bit closer to their position, scale back your demands? Shouldn't you show a little give here?
The bottom line is they won't even negotiate with us, so that's a premature question. But of course, I'm not going to negotiate in public. We need to address the crisis that is afflicting, and that's the right word, the American people. Last one.
Your health care demands are met, would it be enough for you to support a government funding bill if the White House decision to continue, or is that a red line for you?
Look, I'm not going to negotiate in public. You know the things that we are asking for. Thank you.
All right, so we heard from the Democrats as well as the Republicans, guys. We heard from them separately. How about we hear what they got to say as a whole, guys, as they debate amongst each other? Thune, I guess that's his name. Thune and Schumer most definitely got to it. Let's see who we believe when they get to talking with each other, guys. Let's go.
To calendar number 168, HR 5371.
Clerk will report.
Motion to proceed to calendar number 168, HR 5371.
Oh, yeah. Continue to get those likes up, guys. We here for it all. We're most definitely going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to hear both sides, whether you like it or not. And now we got both sides in the same room, you know, basically talking their points at the same time. Let's see what they come up with. Let's continue to get those likes up. Click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We most definitely got them both in the room together. Republicans and Democrats. Let's go.
Appropriations and extensions for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes.
Mr. President, I understand that there is a bill at the desk that is due for a second reading.
The leader is correct. The clerk will read the title of the bill for the second time.
S3012, a bill to appropriate funds for pay and allowances of accepted federal employees for periods of work performed during a lapse in appropriations and for other purposes.
Mr. President, in order to place the bill on the calendar under the provision of Rule 14, I would object to further proceeding.
Objection is heard, so the item will be placed on the calendar under Rule 14.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this morning we will offer my Democrat colleagues yet another opportunity to vote to reopen the government. To vote to reopen the government with a clean, nonpartisan CR. That's right. We are not asking Democrats to swallow any new Republican policies. We're not asking them to swallow any partisan policy riders. We're simply asking them to extend current funding levels for a few weeks while we work on full-year appropriations. And you don't have to take my word for it. Everyone from the president of the Teamsters Union to mainstream media outlets has confirmed that the CR Republicans have put forward is a clean CR. But Senate Democrats chose to shut down the government anyway. Now, Mr. President, Democrats' ostensible reason for their 16-day shutdown is because they want Republicans to agree to bail out the health care mess that Democrats created, first with Obamacare, and then by passing and then sunsetting enhanced Obamacare tax credits that were put in place for the COVID emergency, which I think, as we all know, is long behind us. And despite the fact that we're only in this position because of Democrats' poor policy choices, Republicans are ready for that discussion. I'm ready. My colleagues are ready. The Speaker and the President are ready. But, Mr. President, only once we've reopened the government. We're not conducting negotiations in a hostage situation. And we're not going to pay $1.5 trillion ransom to get Democrats to reopen government operations. That's right, Mr. President, $1.5 trillion. That's what Democrats are demanding. Between
1.5 trillion, woo, that's a lot of money.
Their Obamacare bailout and the other partisan policies that they've included, they want a $1.5 trillion ransom to reopen the government for a handful of weeks. Now, to put that number in perspective, that's equivalent to almost 1/4 of the entire 2024 federal budget. Again, just to reopen the federal government for a handful of weeks. Now think about that, Mr. President. Their proposal, $1.5 trillion in new spending, free health care benefits for non-citizens, to open the government until October 31st. That's what their proposal is. So literally, the American taxpayer is supposed to pay $1.5 trillion so that the Democrats can open the government until Halloween, 2 weeks from now. $1.5 trillion for 2 weeks. That's what we're talking about here. Now just imagine this for a minute, Mr. President, what might happen if we pay that ransom and agree to the Democrats' $1.5 trillion demand. Well, what's going to happen the next time we need a continuing resolution? How much are Democrats going to demand then? Well, we have to add another $1.5 trillion every time we want to fund the government. And they want to do it for 2 weeks. $1.5 trillion for 2 weeks. I mean, where does this end? When taxpayers and our economy have been totally destroyed by Democrats' profligate spending? Is that where it ends? No, Mr. President. While I am more than happy to discuss ways to alleviate Democrats' health care mess, we're not paying $1.5 trillion, a $1.5 trillion ransom to reopen the federal government. Now, Mr. President, as frustrated as I am with their continued refusal to reopen the government, I do have to say that I have some sympathy for Senate Democrats. While they may claim health care is the driver of what they're doing, we all know that the primary reason we're in this mess is because Democrats' far-left base demanded a showdown with President Trump. Just 7 months ago, the Democrat leader voted with Republicans to keep the government open because he said, while he didn't like the CR, a government shutdown would be, quote, much worse, far worse, end quote. But he caught a whole lot of flack for that decision from the far left. And so now, he's leading the shutdown charge. He's not the only Democrat who voted to fund the government march. He's now a member of the shutdown brigade. But Mr. President, no matter how much pressure their far left base is exerting, we still need some Democrats to do the right thing. It would take just a handful of Democrats to reopen the government. Just a handful of Democrats to enable us to resume paying air traffic controllers, law enforcement officers, and all of the other federal workers. Just a handful of Democrats to get the federal government working.
Miss Fat, ain't this something? She says crazy thing is that the insurance companies don't have to raise the premiums. These millionaires don't want to lose money. Let's talk about it.
For the American people. Later today, Democrats are going to have another opportunity to make the right decision. Two opportunities, in fact. They're going to have a chance to vote on the clean, nonpartisan CR, which, as I said, in the past sits right there at the desk, which is passed the House of Representatives. We can pick this up with 5 more Democrat votes, pass it today, send it to the President signs it into law, and the government reopens. So they're going to have a chance to vote on that yet again. And they're going to have a chance to vote to advance full-year defense appropriations legislation. So that if we can't reopen the entire government, we can at least make some progress toward securing paychecks for our troops and for defending our country. Just last week, the Senate passed the National Defense Authorization Act, which is essential legislation, something that we do every year to authorize defense spending and to authorize a pay raise for our troops. So this is Democrats' chance to make good on that promise by funding the raise. The authorization bill authorized it. The defense appropriations bill that we will vote on here later today will actually fund that raise so our troops can get paid. Now again, I realize that Democrats' far left base is rallying in D.C. this weekend, which puts extra pressure on Democrats. But I hope that they'll do the right thing anyway and vote to reopen the government. All we need is 5. Bill's right there. Goes to the President, he signs into law. Government reopens. Mr. President, the American people are depending on some, I'm hoping, Democrats who are willing to put the interest of the American people ahead of the interests of their far left base. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
President.
Leader.
We in quorum.
I seen somebody say, look what you guys are doing. Y'all have so much of our money going to other countries. I agree with that. Let's go.
Unanimous consent, the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
All right, so
Mr.
now
President,
we got
another
the
week has
Democrats,
passed,
guys.
and the Trump
Chuck
shutdown
Schumer, let's
drags
go.
on because Republicans refuse to work with or even negotiate with Democrats in a serious way to fix the health care crisis in America. Let's be clear. Republicans are demanding something that hasn't happened in previous negotiations. They're saying our way or the highway. No negotiation, no Democratic input. This is a highly partisan bill. And they want us to pass this partisan CR that has 0 bipartisan inputs, 0 conversation, and frankly, 0 relief for so many Americans who are afflicted by the health care crisis, which grows deeper and deeper, that crisis, each day. For the last month, the Republican leader's favorite number has been 13. He keeps citing 13 CRs that we passed when I was majority leader. Of course we did. What he fails to mention, I'm not sure he forgets or he's deliberately trying to ignore it, is that those 13 CRs were the product of bipartisan negotiation, of serious conversation. We had to make changes in those bills when our Republican colleagues suggested it. They were in the minority, but they had a right to be heard, a right that has been completely shut out for Democrats under this new Republican majority. It's a new way of doing things, and it's led to the Trump shutdown, aided and abetted by Senate Republicans. Leader Thune talks about hostages. Yeah, the truth is the hostages are the American people that the Republican majority and Trump are holding hostage because they won't help them with health care. Americans are demanding we do something. We address this health care crisis. In terms of extending the ACA tax credits, 90% of Americans want them extended. 58% of Trump voters want them extended. And that's who's being held hostage by the Republican majority. Those are the unfortunate hostages, the American people, and the crisis they face with health care. The ACA crisis is looming over everyone's head, and yet Republicans seem ready to let people's premiums spike by tens of thousands. That's who the hostages are, the American people who need health care relief, who are demanding health care relief. And I'll remind my Republican colleagues, open enrollment is in 2 weeks. It means in 2 weeks, tens of millions of Americans are going to have to make life-changing decisions. Imagine getting a notice that your insurance is going to go up $15,000 each year, as so many of my constituents.
We'll get a notice say your coverage is going up $15,000 a year. Wow, not 1,500, but 15,000. Good Lord.
And people across America are getting, and having to make the awful, awful decision whether to have health care or not, and then think, what if my kid gets sick and I won't have health care? But what do? I can't afford $5,000 or $10,000 more a year. That's the position.
Somebody down there said lies, lies, lies. I'm just saying, I'm repeating what they saying on both sides. This is crazy.
And Republicans are putting the American people in. That's the position Donald Trump is putting the American people in. And I don't know if Republicans don't comprehend it. I think they do. Even when we went to the Oval Office, it seemed when Leader Jeffries and I told President Trump about it, he was just beginning to understand the depth of the crisis. But they either don't understand it or they're brutally callous. So interested in tax cuts for the very wealthy that they're willing to just savage health care for the American people.
Miss Fat say he lying. Ain't nobody paying $15K a year for no health care. Okay, I'm just saying that's what he said. And the Republican said somebody want 15. What was it? $5 or $15 trillion. Lord have mercy.
And then a few Republicans, if they want to act on health care at all, many of them don't want to do anything.
What's up, Lisa?
In the House, where they seem to hold Speaker Johnson in a frightened situation. He's so afraid to do anything about health care because his right wing will attack him. But for those who want to act on health care, they think we can wait till the very, very last minute. But the reality is it'll be far too late for the American people. And many of them will be stuck paying outrageous amounts of money. The vast majority of Americans who have health care, who have ACA health care and other health care, are going to have to make their decisions by November 1st, not January 1st. Yet, despite this crisis, despite the enormity of the increase in costs that Americans will have to pay for their health care, Republicans continue to dig in. They continue to say, we don't want to help on health care. We don't want to negotiate with Democrats on health care. They say there's nothing to negotiate.
Somebody said Biden might have been sleepy, but at least he helped Americans. Let's go.
That's got to change soon. Has to, for the sake of the American people. Democrats want to reopen the government as soon as possible so people can get back to work, so government services are not interrupted. But we need to fix the ACA premiums right now. If Republicans fail to act now to lower premiums, the American people will correctly, wish it didn't have to happen, wish we could solve this, but they'll have to hold them. The American people will have to hold the Republicans responsible when they face financial ruin. Now on the No Kings rallies. In a few days, millions of
Yeah, let's talk about the No Kings rallies, guys. Lord have mercy. There were a lot of people in a lot of states, guys, out protesting against the King situation, man. I covered that the other day, man. I might go live tonight a little bit later after I get done with this and cover it some more, man. You know, I heard that Portland is most definitely going crazy about this, as well as LA, guys. It's a lot of protests going on in the streets right now about this No Kings things, man. A lot of people are unhappy in America.
Americans in cities, towns, villages, rural areas across the country will exercise one of the most fundamental rights under the Constitution, one of the greatest things about America, exercising the right to peacefully protest, exercising the right...
I see somebody say, hey, we need food for our families. I agree.
...to free speech. This weekend's No Kings rallies will be an affirmation about what America is all about. We are a democracy in America. We have no kings, despite the fact that Trump has even said he wants to become one and is acting in ways that are a threat to our democracy. In America, we do not have dictators, and we cannot allow presidents to transform the presidency into some form of dictatorship. And now more than ever, for that reason, it is vital Americans from one end of the country to the other stand up for our basic freedoms, because Donald Trump is eroding our democracy day by day by day. So this weekend, I encourage Americans everywhere, Americans who love this country, who care about our democracy. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent, a liberal or a moderate or conservative. The vast majority of Americans want to preserve this democracy. And the No Kings rally says that in a very strong way, where millions of Americans, millions will come together to say just that we don't want kings in America. I will join the marchers to celebrate what makes this country so great. And I say to my fellow citizens, do not let Donald Trump or Republicans intimidate you into silence. That's what they want to do. They're afraid of the truth. Republicans are going apoplectic because Americans are exercising their right to free speech. Even some of them, too many of them, know that Donald Trump is threatening our democracy and the American...
Hey guys, can we get 40 more on that like button, man? Let's click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, man. Or simply double tap your screen. That's how you hit that like button, guys. Either double tap that screen on your mobile device or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel, man. We're covering this government shutdown day by day, and most definitely hearing both sides, man. This is a non-biased channel. We hear out both parties, man, and we come up with what we think the truth is, because you know they always say it's they side and then the other side, and somewhere in the middle is the truth, guys. Continue to get those likes up.
People are seeing just that, and that is the theme, the very appropriate theme of this weekend's rallies. No kings, no kings. So I urge Americans, speak out, use your voice, exercise your rights to free speech, and of course, there should be no violence from either side. I say to Americans, show the world how much we love this country, how much we love our values, how much we love our democracy and want to preserve it. And don't be afraid. Trump and the Republicans want you to be afraid. They don't like free speech. When it's free speech, they don't want to hear. But we're not going to let them intimidate us. For weeks, Republicans have tried to vilify these rallies. They call them the most ridiculous of terms, hate America rallies. These are love America rallies. They call them terrorist rallies. That's just despicable. They're trying to scare people away from their basic right to free speech, but we will not be intimidated. These are not hate rallies, as some of the right-wingers try to say. These are Save America rallies, Love America rallies, Care About America rallies. Not only is this a right to protest, which we all treasure or have treasured until recently, with this new administration seeming to not want rights to protest or even free speech when they don't agree with it. This is the right thing to do. The necessity when Donald Trump weaponizes the Justice Department to become his attack dog and go after his political enemies. When he attacks...
Well, it seems like the Supreme Court is siding with Trump, guys. They just gave Trump permission to send the National Guard in to Portland.
The courts. When he intimidates the free press.
What's up, John?
And tries to tell networks they're going to lose their licenses if they say things he doesn't agree with. When people are arrested and put in jail, American citizens, with no real cause, and not even identification of who is making the arrest. I am so proud of Americans who will stand up peacefully. There's nothing more American than exercising the right to free speech, especially the right to dissent, especially when our democracy is at risk because of what Trump and his Republican cronies are trying to do. Remember the last
cronies, guys.
rally? We saw millions of people, all backgrounds, all corners of the country, gathering peacefully. We saw American flags as far as the eye can see, and that's natural. The American flag stands for free speech. The American flag stands for the right for peacefully protest, even if Trump and his cronies don't even understand that, or don't want to understand that. At these rallies, we saw people who love this country. We saw people who want to stand up for American values. We saw people who want to preserve our precious democracy. And that, sadly, is what many Republicans want to silence. We will not be silenced. Donald Trump and many Republicans in Congress are using intimidation, lies, bully tactics to prevent people from standing up, speaking out, exercising our precious constitutional rights. But I say again to every American out there who wants to participate in these weekend rallies, do not let Donald Trump or Republicans intimidate you into silence. That is what they want. That is how dictators evolve, when good people of all different beliefs and backgrounds stay silent. No King's Day says we will not stay silent. I say to the American people, do not be afraid to exercise your right to free speech. Be proud that you're doing it. Do not be afraid to peacefully protest against Donald Trump's eroding of our democracy, and do not be afraid to show how much you love this beautiful democracy, as the founding fathers called it, God's noble experiment. We have to keep this precious democracy. Now on the young Republicans, another sad chapter in how the Republican Party has devolved over the last few years. It's been 2 days since Politico published a horrifying story revealing thousands of private messages containing racist, sexist, and violent comments from prominent members of the Young Republicans organization. And yet, President Trump and the Republican leadership has remained silent. There's nothing but radio silence from Republican leaders who seem to claim they worry about combating political violent rhetoric. The silence from Republican leaders in the face of Hitler jokes and gas chamber jokes is deafening. Where are they? When they don't like somebody who says something on the left, they're the first to criticize it. Well, this is one of the nastiest, most vicious things that we have ever seen written by young Republicans, no less, and the Republican leadership, including President Trump, is silent. I said, Republicans never miss a chance to preach about violent rhetoric when it comes from the other side, and of course that should be condemned. But now that it's coming from their own ranks, they're silent. Some Republicans seem to even excuse this vile behavior. This is amazing. The Vice President of the United States, no less, J.D. Vance, dismissed the messages as just a college group chat. Can you imagine if it was a group of people on the left saying some things? If he'd say the same thing? A college group chat? Does J.D. Vance really think glorifying Hitler and gas chambers is just a silly joke? Imagine if it came from the other side. We all know that Vance would be losing his mind right now. He'd be all over Fox News, decrying it. But now, since it's coming from his own ranks, he's just excusing it. Despicable, disgraceful, shameful. No matter if you're a Republican or Democrat in the middle, we all must condemn this nasty behavior and make it clear. This type of vicious rhetoric is unacceptable in America. And finally, on Gateway. On Gateway. Yesterday, President Trump and his administration terminated funding for Gateway. Gateway is the most important infrastructure project in America, period. It'll keep our economy moving, our region connecting, tens of thousands of union workers on the job. Donald Trump is trying to kill it again in pure spite and with sheer stupidity. It's petty revenge politics. And who gets hurt? It's going to screw over hundreds of thousands of New York and New Jersey commuters. Choke off our economy, kill good-paying jobs. It affects New Jersey. More people use it to commute from New Jersey than from New York. What Trump has done on Gateway is vindictive, reckless, and foolish. And if Donald Trump thinks he can use New Yorkers, New Jerseyites, commuters, small businesses, union construction workers, and the first responders as political pawns, it will backfire on him spectacularly. We will fight the president on this in every way to preserve this crucial, vital infrastructure project, crucial and vital to New York, New Jersey, the Northeast economy, and the whole American economy. I yield the floor.
Boy, you talk for an hour. Lord have mercy. All right, so that was pretty much it from Chuck Schumer, and basically the Democrats, guys, as the government remains shut down for 20 days now. They said this is the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, guys. Now, let me state my opinion. Whether you believe the Democrats or the Republicans, I believe that they both share responsibility in this shutdown for the simple fact that they act as if they cannot come together on a decision that would benefit both sides and the American people to reopen the government, guys. I feel like if they cut some of those checks they had, if they weren't getting paid like some of these people ain't getting their money in America, that it would be a different response, guys. That's what I think, be mad if you want to, but that's how I feel about it. Okay, so, y'all feel free to voice your opinions in the chat. Another situation that caught my attention, guys, is where they told me that there was a Doge employee that was attacked, guys, and that they have caught the person who did it and filed more charges. Check this one out.
Keep you in D.C. right now. We want to go out to U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro making remarks now and an update in the investigation of an assault that happened to a former Doge staffer. Let's listen in on Live Now from Fox.
I want to thank you all for being here today. Today we're going to announce the names of two individuals who are being charged with a series of assaults and attempted carjacking in a highly publicized case where two young men were brutally assaulted and stomped, highlighting the need for accountability among young offenders in the district. This case underscores the escalating challenges that we face in confronting crime in Washington, D.C. On August 3rd of 2025, at about 2:53 a.m. Sunday morning, at the U Street corridor and 14th Street, which is a very popular hangout, a nightlife area, essentially, Ethan Levine, a 22-year-old, and several of his friends were standing outside a Sunoco gas station. They were approached by a large group of teens, individuals who confronted them and began to assault them. Today, we are announcing that Lawrence Cotton Powell, who is 19 years of age, along with Anthony Taylor, who is 18 years of age, are now charged with assaulting Levine. Cotton Powell was stomping on Levine's head, as you can see in this poster to my left. Levine was able to get up momentarily, but the crowd chased him and got him down again. They continued to attack Levine while he was on the ground, and then proceeded to rob him of his sneakers and his watch. The group then, after the robbery and assault of Ethan Levine, they walked in the direction of where another crime occurred within minutes. You have heard of this crime. Edward Korestein, a 19-year-old Doge person who was working in the administration, was walking a young woman to her car when he was approached in the 1400 block of Swan Street Northwest. Approximately 10 suspects approached him, and as they did, he pushed the young woman into the car. And he was protecting her from the group before he was then attacked by multiple suspects, who then punched him repeatedly, causing significant injuries to him. They got him on the ground, and as they were doing so, they demanded the car from the woman who was inside the car and had already locked the car. They were banging on the car, they were pulling the car door, trying to get the car open, and were telling the woman in the car to hand over the keys. And the woman was, as I said, able to lock the car door, so they were unable to gain entry. And it was fortuitous that someone from the Metropolitan Police Department was on patrol. He happened to pull onto the block, and he witnessed the suspects actually assaulting Korestein, who was on the ground lying next to the car. The juveniles fled, but within a short period of time, two 15-year-olds were arrested, and they were taken into the family court by the Attorney General's office. That is the local Attorney General's office. Now, I think what's significant about this case is the history of Lawrence Cotton Powell. I want you to follow me on this. Lawrence Cotton Powell is 19 years of age. He's now charged with robbery, first-degree robbery, for which he faces 15 years in prison. He also faces a charge of assault with intent to commit robbery and another 15 years. And robbery for Edward Korestein, 15 years. Assault with intent to commit robbery, another 15 years. And attempted carjacking, 5 years.
Lord, that's about 70 years he facing in jail, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere real close. 15, and 5. Lord.
Now, let me tell you his background. On April 3rd of this year, Lawrence Cotton Powell was sentenced for a felony attempted robbery. My office asked for jail time. Judge McLean, a judge sitting in the criminal part in Superior Court with no criminal background, made a decision to give Cotton Powell probation in spite of his conviction on a felony attempted robbery. Within 31 days, by May 4th, Powell reoffends. He's rearrested while he's on probation from the felony, and he's charged with simple assault and possession of a prohibited weapon B. On May 4th, my office asked that probation be revoked. But on May 16th, that same Judge McClain comes back and releases Cotton Powell and tells him basically, be a good boy. On July 24th, he is sentenced to one of the two misdemeanors that he's charged with. Again, my office asked for jail time after he victimized yet another person. And on July 25th, another judge suspends his sentence and decides that he should be on probation. So after a felony of attempted robbery conviction, after a violation of probation, after a second crime, after a second conviction, after no compliance with C. Sosa, the judges say do better and they let him go. And guess what? Within 10 days, he's at it again with Ethan Levine and Edward Korstein. Now, the co-defendant in this case is an individual by the name of Anthony Taylor. He charged also with the same arrest. He is with the same crimes. He is from Maryland. He is 18 years old. We are unaware of any history as it relates to him. I want to thank the Metropolitan Police Department. I want to thank the fact that this department went above and beyond and worked incredibly hard with the little evidence that we had to identify two of the perpetrators that we're going to be able to prosecute in criminal court. And I want to mention and thank the chief, and I also want to thank Mayor Bowser for her assistance in helping us. This is a coordinated...
All right, so if you're just now getting here, you're wondering what's going on. We're taking a look right now at the Doge employee attacker that's facing 50 years, guys, at 19 years old. He attacked the Doge employee as well as did some other crimes that got him facing 50 years in jail, guys. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you double tapping that screen. That's how you get the likes up. Or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, and most definitely subscribe to Everything News, where we cover everything news, guys.
Effort by all of us. I also want to thank the marshals who are here, and they'll be speaking to you in a minute. But I again urge the D.C. Council to reconsider those trilogy of laws that allow Washington, D.C. to allow these young people to go out and victimize, re-victimize, and keep re-victimizing and putting the safety of the citizens who live, work, and visit here at risk. And I ask them to stand up finally and send a clear message, because the people of this district deserve no less than safety. So I want to call upon the police chief, Pamela Smith, to say a few words.
All right. Thank you, Judge Pirro. Good afternoon. I'm Pamela A. Smith, Chief of Police for the Metropolitan Police Department. I'm joined today by Commander Kevin Kentish of our Criminal Investigations Division and Detective Thomas O'Donnell of the Carjacking Task Force. The Metropolitan Police Department is proud to stand alongside our partners at the United States Attorney's Office and the United States Marshal Service in announcing 2 additional arrests in the attempted carjacking of Mr. Edward Korstein. This is the latest example of the continuous partnerships between our agencies and our collective community commitment to removing individuals who harm our communities out of our community. It is because of the swift response of our officers, 2 suspects were immediately arrested after the offense occurred. Since the morning of August 3rd, detectives assigned to the Metropolitan Police Department Carjacking Task Force have worked tirelessly with all of our partners to identify and apprehend the 2 outstanding suspects. Just minutes before the attempted carjacking on Swan Street, both of these suspects were involved in a robbery just a few blocks away from U Street. This behavior is indicative of what we see time and time again. A small group of suspects committed a series of violent crime offenses in a very short period of time. These arrests send a very strong message to our community. If you commit violent acts in our community, you will be found, you will be held accountable, and you will face justice. Together, we will continue to work tirelessly to ensure our neighbors and our communities that you remain safe and that those who threaten the safety will be held accountable. I'd also like to thank Judge Pirro and her team for working alongside the Metropolitan Police Department for getting this case to where it is today. I'd also like to thank Mayor Muriel Bowser, who has also been very, very supportive of public safety in this city. And since I've been in this space as the chief, she has certainly been a strong supporter and an advocate for what we need to do in this city to drive down crime. And lastly, the members of the Metropolitan Police Department, the Carjacking Task Force, and our detectives who every single day go out there and investigate those crimes to ensure that our citizens and our communities feel safe. Thank you so much. And I'll turn it back over to Judge Pirro.
All right, and now I'd like to call Don Schneider up from the U.S. Marshals.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chief Inspector Don Snyder. I am the commander of the Capital Area Regional Fugitive Task Force with the United States Marshal Service. I also have Superior Court United States Marshal Tony Dixon with me. The mission of the Cardiff is to reduce violent crime and enhance public safety through the investigation and apprehension of violent fugitives. So fugitive investigations can be complex and are often inherently dangerous. Deputy U.S. Marshals and law enforcement officers across the country place the communities they serve before themselves when investigating and apprehending violent fugitives. Ensuring the service of justice for citizen victims can be extremely costly. We work closely at the Cardiff in D.C. with the Metropolitan Police Department. Our partnership is strong. It is the case in this investigation. So in the fugitive business, we regularly ask ourselves two very important questions. How do we manage risk to the community, to law enforcement, and to the offender when attempting to conduct a safe arrest operation? And how does law enforcement with limited resources and personnel best mitigate the risk of violent crime in our communities? So through high quality constitutional law enforcement, strong investigations and prosecutions, righteous convictions, and sentences of consequence, holistic mitigation of violence also requires organizations in the community to provide opportunities for growth and positive engagement with families and our youth. Over the past 75 days, the DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force has arrested over 4,700 offenders, seizing over 460 illicit firearms during these arrests. Violent crime is down across the city. Our mission at the DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force is to end crime in America's capital, making it the safest city in the nation. Law enforcement and National Guard are doing our best to do our part. Now we need everybody to come together and work together to eliminate violence in the district for good and provide families and our youth with opportunities to thrive. The DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force is an absolutely wonderful thing. It's the greatest partnership in modern history of law enforcement and National Guard coming together to make a community safe. And we are here to stay. It's one badge, one fight, make DC the safest and most beautiful city in America, where citizens of all DC communities are provided with the unlimited opportunity to thrive.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Tony Dixon. I'm the United States Marshal for the Superior Court here in the District of Columbia. As you've heard said, first of all, let me thank Judge Pirro, United States Attorney Pirro. I want to thank Chief of Police Pamela Smith and all of her colleagues. And I also want to thank Mayor Bowser for the continued cooperation and collaboration that we have in partnerships to address these types of matters. As you've seen, and as you have heard, this effort is indicative of what can happen and what does happen when we collaboratively interact to bring justice in the District of Columbia. That said, we can do it better with the assistance of the community. And with that in mind, I implore and I invite the community to assist us in our efforts, our collaborative efforts to make this a safer and a more unified and peaceful city. We can do it with your help, and only with your help can it be as successful as possible. That said, I want to thank you all for what you have done and continue to do. I want to thank the colleagues here. And again, I want to thank the U.S. Attorney's Office and our collaborative relationship with the Metropolitan Police. Thank you.
And with respect to the cooperative, collaborative relationship, I think you all know that this is something that President Trump brought to the district in his desire to make DC safe and beautiful. The number of arrests, the number of convictions, the number of charges are all reflective of a cooperative effort, and they're making a difference in the district. Now, any questions? Yes.
Hi, Dad. Olivia George with the Washington Post. Thanks for having us. You mentioned that this 18 and 19-year-old and the two 15-year-olds that were sentenced last week were part of a larger group.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you've identified any of the other individuals, and if so, how old they are, and when we can expect news of others.
Well, I'm glad you asked the question. The investigation is continuing. We continue to take these cases and move it forward. We're not going to be happy until we get every person who was involved in the assault on these two individuals, and we continue to do that. Make no mistake that is a priority for everyone who's standing behind me right now. Two of the 15-year-olds, as you know, have been released. Their case is closed. Our case has been put over for a preliminary hearing, I believe, I believe it's November 6th. But we expect that there will be more who will be identified and arrested. I think that what you can see here, these two defendants here are stomping on Edward Levine. You can see that there is a sneaker there. They're taking his shoes from him. And this was what Edward Cordesign looked like. These are severe beatings with some severe injuries, hospitalizations by both victims. And the most stunning part of all this is they happened within minutes of each other. And we know that this same group moved from one assault to the next assault. And we are continuing to investigate with these phenomenal investigators in police department to find out where they went next. And we will. Of that, I have no question.
You said that these arrests are evidence that these individuals will be held accountable and will face justice. Your officers repeatedly arrested this individual, gave the evidence to the prosecutor's office that used it to repeatedly ask that he be detained, and then he reoffended multiple times. Is that being held accountable? And is there frustration among law enforcement that they're not being held accountable despite your office's repeated efforts to provide the necessary evidence to your office?
When you say that he reoffended at what point?
Well, the misdemeanor in May, that he reoffended while he was out.
But the chief is not responsible for what judges do.
That's what I'm asking. Is there frustration that there's not accountability despite the effort your officers continue to put in?
Let me say this. I think everyone in this room knows the amount of times we have rearrested the same individuals over and over and over again. Today's message is not new. Of course, it's frustrating for my police officers. Every single day, the expectation of this city is that they go out and police, right? And then when they keep arresting the same individuals over and over and over again, it's offensive to me. I have to sit through crime briefings Monday through Friday. We see some of the same faces over and over and over again. And when I talk about the accountability piece, that is certainly in partnership with our U.S. Attorney's Office. Make no mistake about it. Judge Pirro, as we present these cases, her office is working collaboratively with us, and she is doing what we have expected the process to do when it comes to our criminal justice system. And that is when we arrest individuals for violent crimes, that they are presented in court and that they are held accountable. When it comes to that piece, of course, I'm not a judge and I'm certainly not an attorney, but I do applaud our officers who continue every single day in this same effort. But there has to be some kind of relief, and there has to be a clear message to members and community that we're not going to continue to tolerate this. And there has to be a juvenile justice system and a justice system that are going to hold these folks accountable.
Do you back the judge's request to the council that they rescind those three particular pieces of the legislation?
Now, you know I'm not a politician, and my position as the chief of police is to always to remain apolitical. Any legislation that is proposed by Mayor Bowser, clearly I support the mayor's presentation to the council in collaboration with the mayor. There are things that my office presents to the mayor and team with respect to what we'd like to see with regards to legislation that will help our officers police safer in our city.
Chief, I just read the charging document with Taylor. It's 23 pages long and very extensive and shows multiple pictures of the beating. But what's extraordinary is that Taylor was arrested hours after Gorstein was beat up, and his photo was taken. And that seems to have been the key to the case here. I don't know if Commander Kendish wants to talk about it, but how long did it take to connect Taylor with that photograph of that arrest, with all of the surveillance photos that you had and video that you had, to finally, because it looks to me as if it was his clothing and his face, obviously, that connected the dots.
And Paul, I appreciate you for asking that question. As you know, all of that is a part of the investigation, and that's what the judge and her team will present in court, at the timeline and how those things panned out.
Can you talk about the work that the detectives did on that?
Well, I think the detectives have done an extensive work. I think Judge Pirro has said they worked tirelessly. I've said they have worked tirelessly. And in the question that the Washington Post reporter asked was that, are there others? We will continue to work and throw everything that we have at this particular, in all of our cases. This isn't just as you notice, we have this case, we have that case. They're working this entire case.
Yes.
What's up, Penny?
You're charging the individuals with carjacking, correct? That's part of the charges?
Yes.
And so...
Attempted carjacking.
But President Trump said last week that he was disappointed that you were disappointed with the sentencing of the other individuals that...
Of the 15-year-olds by the family court? Well, without even asking you to be specific, we have long believed that it's time to lower the age of criminal responsibility. It's time that we get 15-year-olds who are part of this gang into the criminal justice system so that we have a record of who they are. So we start to incarcerate them. This is a problem. They go to family court, they get released, and then they get probation, and that's the end of it. How many times they go through there before I get to them is amazing. If you could look, and I'm not talking about this case, if you could look at the history of a lot of these offenders, when I first get them, how many times they've been in family court, you would be furious, as I am most days.
Were you disappointed, though, by the actual charges that you were able to bring? Had you intended to bring carjacking?
I bring charges that are consistent with the evidence, the facts, and the law. It's not about being disappointed. I mean, I only go as far as the law allows me to go. And it's attempted carjacking. They didn't get the car. She was in the vehicle. She didn't give them the keys. They weren't able to get in. But, I mean, this is an attempt to robbery one, along with the assault in pursuance of a robbery. I mean, this is assault with the intent to commit a robbery. These are serious crimes, 15 years for each.
Related to this,
Totaling 50 years.
prosecutor in your office, Liz Lloyd, did it have anything to do with the headquarters?
I don't talk about personnel issues in a press conference. What else?
Tell us where these two are. I know Taylor went through court, Superior Court already. When was Taylor arrested, and where is Powell? Was he in Maryland?
No, they're both, where are they? They're both detained. They're in. They are now residents of the taxpayers.
How were they arrested?
Were they arrested? Friday?
Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, Friday and Saturday. Okay?
Where they were arrested? In Maryland?
Thursday and Friday.
One was arrested in Maryland. The one who lives in Maryland. So we had to go across state lines to get him. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I ask an off-topic question?
No.
All right, that.
All right, guys. So that was a live update. Well, not live, but an update on the Doge employee that was attacked by a 19-year-old who had committed prior offenses, guys. And he's facing up to 50 years. They caught him. You know what I'm saying? He's facing 50 years. Let's most definitely take time to double tap that screen, y'all. Get the likes up and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new, man. We walk down Chuck Schumer, Mike Johnson, in this whole government shutdown, which I blame on both parties because it seemed like they can't come to an agreement. And it's affecting the American people directly, y'all. There are plenty of protests going on right now. I'm feeling like here in a second, I'll probably go live and show y'all some of the protests that I'm able to see, as part of my late night live, guys. But I brought y'all everything that was included in my title as far as the Republicans and the Democrats going head to head over this government shutdown that has been going for 20 days now, guys. No matter what side you on, you most definitely got to agree this is taking way too long. We need the government open back up ASAP. Both of them are making arguments about health care. The Democrats are saying that the Republicans are trying to raise the price of health care. And the Republicans are saying that the Democrats are trying to give health care to illegal immigrants. And that's why they can't come to a conclusion, a good enough resolution to open the government back up. Like I said earlier, I think if they stop paying both parties and they didn't get their checks in the mail when they were supposed to, we'll most definitely get some kind of resolution and we would get it fast. Each side trying to blame the other side is only prolonging this whole situation when we need them both to come together and do something that benefits the American people of opening back up the government, guys. That's my stance. I'm not on neither side. I'm on the side of right, man. And what's right is opening back up the government for the American people. Because in the end, to me, we are the ones that are suffering, guys. That's just my opinion. You ain't gotta like it. I give everybody the option to voice their opinion in the chat. I'm non-biased. I'm not tripping. It is what it is. But as far as for this segment of the show, guys, we've come to the end of it. I hope that you enjoyed the show. Shout out to all my members. Shout out to all my subscribers. And if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we do cover everything that's in the news that catches my attention. And I hope that it catches yours, guys. Shout out to my members, my long-standing members, as well as my new members, and the people who are looking to become members. I encourage you to grab you a membership. There are plenty of things inside members only, that I think that you might like, if you choose to. Shout out to my moderators for keeping the chat clean, keeping this thing rolling smooth. Without y'all, I don't know what I would do. And with that being said, y'all stay safe out there. Y'all already know what it is. Sidewalk Gang, checking out. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Man, be looking for me within the next hour, guys. I'm probably going to go live and show some of these protests that are going on right now, guys. So shout out to y'all. Y'all stay safe out there. I'm gone.